Studio.
Moshi Moshi, it's Spazzatic Studio here, and I'm going to be teaching you some interesting ways to add intrigue to your line art. I'm going to be showing you using Procreate for iPad, but my method only really requires very basic functions, and you can find them on any drawing software. If you like this example and you want to practice, you can do so via the free base on the free tier of my Patreon. I give out free stuff there all the time that you can use to, further the plot and improve your drawing, and you can also check me out on Instagram for more art tutorials. So basically all that we need for the time being is some kind of technical pen or whatever you use to ink. I use a technical pen and I turn the jitter to 0 and the stability to 100. For the sake of argument, I'm going to label our layers. So I only ever use the technical pen to ink on between 1.5 and 2% because we want the lines to be very thin and very malleable. And so you'll notice here I have two layers. So the bottom is going to be my regular 2%. This example has already been lined, and then we're going to have the modded layer above. So you should have two layers, one with your regularly lined work, and then you'll make a layer above that, and this is where you're going to start playing with the line weights. So usually what I do is I look for any lines which intersect, and this is by no means a revolutionary thing to do. A lot of artists choose to play with the line weight by just finding points which intersect. So the things that we're looking for are not only any kind of lines that may cross or touch each other, wherein I'm just going to go in and soften the corner, but also the ends of hair, the ends of eyelashes, the perimeters of accessories. I also go in looking for any slopes or anything in which I can accentuate a point. So not just, for example, the tips of these eyelashes. As you can see, the top, you can make things look a little bit more sketchy, a little bit more Y2K, I would argue, by exaggerating either a pointy end or a soft end. And in combining the accentuation of pointy and soft, I find that it gives the art a really fun kind of uncanny look. And so as I'm labeling here, we're looking for triangles, ends, slopes, points, and any kind of intersecting lines. So this will all be on your layer that you made above the original line art layer. Once you've assessed any slopes, any curves, any intersecting lines, something that I like to do, which is a bit more cartoony feeling, but I do think it adds a little bit of intrigue, is to choose the most extreme far away point and then change the thickness of my brush. And so when I'm making these lines to basically outline whatever I'm drawing, my brush is now going from between 1.5 and 2% to anywhere between 3 and 6%. And I like the technical pen because you can add or remove pressure using your hand if you want lines to have a blowout effect, if you want them to be thicker, if you want them to taper, especially. I think I'm an artist that does a lot of tapering in my line art because it does add intrigue. So we're basically looking for anything which would be farthest away from the quote-unquote camera and making sure in this case that those lines are the darkest possible. And now here's the fun little secret you've been waiting for. So this I can take credit for doing because I've never seen anybody else do it. Basically, you're going to merge your layers 1 and 2. And so now all you have is your modified line weights line art. You are going to copy the line art, and above both layers of the line art, you're going to do a clipping mask and then color it in. I always use red. I recolor my line art to always be red. That's how you know that it's me. The layer beneath, the bottommost layer, you are going to Gaussian blur it to between 1 and 2% to give your work the look of a blowout. And then I basically just go around and I choose places to add little blobs to add to this blowout effect. If we're looking at it on my latest work, you can see that I've actually gone really, really thick with the border because not only are there things that are farthest away from us, but I want to differentiate this little chibi in the foreground. And so in order to do that, I have to make the lines thicker. And the nice part of very thick lines is that you can also fill any kind of gaps or negative space, eliminating the need to shade. So this is a character creation that I did using the base that is actually available on the paid Patreon tier, and you can really clearly see where the line weights have been changed and where I haven't changed anything at all, because this is a reference sheet. I'm not going to do the blowout effect because there's no need for it, right? Like, this isn't really going to be seen by the public. This is just so that I can keep track of how I'm drawing this character, but you can immediately tell that in the two heads, the line weights have been changed. And so even if you don't want to do this weird, uncanny, like Y2K style hazy line art, you can absolutely change the line weights, which is just a very fancy way of saying choose which lines look best with their thickness and their thinness having been changed. And that's really up to you. That's at your discretion. Like, it's your art. Do what feels right. It helps to soften line art that feels overly stiff, although a lot of people find that looking for intersecting points is actually quite tedious, and so it kind of bounces them off the whole process. And I was definitely one of those people. And so, again, I think that looking for slopes, triangles, curves, anything that you can accentuate with an almost boxy feeling or any kind of intersecting lines can give you a very helpful hint as to where you might decide to change the weight of your line art, but by no means is it mandatory to change all of your line art. But these are just some methods that work for me. I've been doing them for, I would say, about a year and a half, and I really like them, so maybe you like them too. That's how I make my line art look a little bit weird, a little bit off kilter. And I hope that you learned something. Whether you did or whether you didn't, again, please do check out the free Patreon. Please check out my second channel. I do vlogs. And please check me out on Instagram.